We wanted to set up a tool so we could accurately capture what we're doing in terms of commuting energy. And so this is just a screen capture that I've made of it. All our employees, as part, each week you have to fill out your timesheet. Well, guess what? Each week you also have to fill out your carbon tracker. And so I don't know if you can see it too well, but it goes through, there's a day of the week and you say, I drove to work, or I carpooled, or I took a bus to work. And then behind the scenes, the software does all the calculations in terms of the carbon emissions that are associated with that. And to me, it's just really important that you put that in front of people. If you have to go in and fill it every day, how did I get to work? It makes you think about that. Oh, could I have carpooled to work? Could I have taken public transit? So it's in the employee's face every day. So the next thing we did is we instituted what I think is a fairly aggressive green incentive program. This is something we started a number of years ago, and this last year we essentially ratcheted up in terms of the performance levels. So this is a benefit package for our employees. Many of you will have a health benefit program where there's some sort of 80% of dental and things like that. Well, this is our green incentive or our green benefit program for our employees. And there's a number of initiatives in here that deal with the carbon emissions. And the big section there you can see at the top is the sustainable transportation. So the big ones are we give up to $3,000 to each employee to purchase a qualifying hybrid vehicle, not hybrid Hummers, but the Priuses and the Insights and so on. We give free bus passes, and this is, of course, across our whole company, all of our offices. So Kitchener Transit passes, Toronto Transit passes. There's various incentives for people to walk to work, bike to work, and so on. And there's a number of things we also have in there for people to green up their homes, free energy audits of their homes and things like that. Next. So as I indicated earlier, our big sin was travel. So we were looking at how we could reduce our travel. So those other earlier incentives I talked about helped with the commuting travel. But in terms of our business travel, what we've done over the last year, we've opened up 2 regional offices. We now have an office in Toronto and one in Edmonton, whereas before we were serving those 2 markets out of Kitchener and Calgary. So it put us closer to the market or to where our clients are, but then it also cut down, at least in my case, driving to Toronto 2 or 3 times a day. We can have the Toronto people do it. So that was a big one. But again, we still need good connection with all of our employees, so we've put in video conferencing at all of our offices so we can have a company meeting. We can get all 4 offices up on the screen, and I must admit, there's a huge difference between having a video conference and a conference call. When you can see someone's face, it really does work, and it's worked out very well for us. The next thing we did in 2009, we moved into our new office building. Some of you may know our old office building, Green on the Grand, 650 Riverbend, which was the most energy efficient office building in Canada, at least at the time. We set the ambitious goal for this building to cut the energy use in half of that building to make us even more the most energy efficient office building in Canada. And we are tracking that energy numbers. And go to the next slide. I can't remember if I put the numbers on. Yeah, I did. So we're looking at an 80% reduction in energy use over a conventional office building. Conventional office building in Canada runs about 400 kilowatt hours per square meter, and we're running about 65, 70 on that. So that's real monitor data that we're getting out, and you can see where those reductions are. And I should mention, if you want to come and see our building and see the technologies, drop me a note or drop Sustainable Waterloo guys a note, and we'll see if we can get you in there for a tour. Next. So in terms of encouraging transportation for our employees, we put in bike lockers, not just bike racks, bike lockers, so that if the weather is inclement, they can protect it from rain and snow. We have reserved spots for carpools and hybrid vehicles, so not only do you get $3,000, you get the premium parking space. Next. And so, how did all that work out? So this is our results for 2009. As Mike mentioned earlier, we had an absolute reduction of 57 tons. But probably, I guess more important, at least more that I can relate to, we had a 28% reduction per employee. So if you remember earlier, I think I said we were at 3.6 tons per employer. We've dropped to 2.6, and you can see the graph over there. The big reduction was actually the commuting energy on that. In addition to that, we've purchased green power for our office in Kitchener, so we've totally paid off the carbon emissions for that one, so that's an additional 11%. So you add those 2 together, we're at a 39% reduction over 1 year on our way to the 100%. So if you said 5 years, that's 20% a year. You're at 39. You're in good shape. You're well ahead of the race. But we've also picked up the low-hanging fruit. So I'm sure we won't get as good numbers next year. But we're feeling pretty good. We think we're on track to hit that target. But obviously we're not done. We're only at 39. We have to get to 100. So some of the other things that we're doing, first off, that vehicle incentive program that we introduced, many of the employees picked it up, the new vehicles at the end of the year, so they actually didn't show up in our 2009 numbers, so they'll be showing up in our 2010. We're looking at putting a car share vehicle on our property, which will be a hybrid one, so that our employees, even if they drive their own car to work and they have to go to a business meeting, at least they can take a hybrid to that meeting. And we're looking at alternative ways of incenting our employees to getting alternative ways of getting to work, including the 2 employees there that actually on that commuting challenge actually canoed to work. So I think that was a first. Next. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
So, City of Waterloo, as Mike mentioned, is an observing organization with the Regional Carbon Initiative. So observing is one step before pledging, and the city has made a wise decision in choosing to do that as they figure out where they're going and what type of reduction target that they want to set. So today it's my pleasure to introduce you Mayor Halloran and Anna Marie Cipriani from the City of Waterloo. Both of these individuals have been involved with our organization since almost the very start. The City of Waterloo was a sponsor of our very first educational forum, which I think many of you were at last January. And then again, they were a sponsor of our launch event in June. So if I could welcome Mayor Halloran to the stage at this moment.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm very proud to be here, and I have a bit of a story to tell, so I'm not going to tell the story about the City of Waterloo because Anne-Marie is going to do that. I'm going to tell you the story of Mike and I, and it's quite an interesting story. In December of 2007, I got an email from this person named Mike Morris, and he said, you know, I'm a university student, and I'm almost done my studies, and I want to stay in Waterloo, and would you just talk to me? And I said, well, sure. So I emailed him back, we set up a time, and he came to meet me. And this was way before this. So we sat and we spoke for a while, and I was just so impressed with him. And all I kept thinking was, we've got to keep him here. We have got to keep him here in our community because this young man has ideas and dreams and visions that are going to take us to places where we are right now and creating what has been created for us now. So we had a great discussion, and I did the best I could to keep him here, and he kind of left, and we talked a few times after that and met a few times, and he came back to me with some of his ideas now that was kind of leading into what he has created, Sustainable Waterloo. And even at that time, some of his verbiage was new about carbons and greenhouse gas emissions and how could the city get involved. And we hadn't really, we had an idea as a city we'd like to do this, but we didn't know how we were going to do it. But after our first meeting, I said to Mike, you know what, Mike, one day I'm going to say, I knew you when. And I am now able to say, I know him now. And I will always be able to say I knew him when. This young man has brought to our community something truly magnificent. And it's affecting our lives and the lives of our children and for future generations to come. I know. You're welcome. And I'm so proud of him. And I'm so proud to be able to say I played a small part in what is happening right here. And when Mike and I were talking a long, long time ago, which it truly wasn't 2 years ago, look what he has accomplished and his team. And look at all of us sitting here listening to Mike and following his lead and creating our own sustainable Waterloos wherever we work and wherever we reside. So I'm very proud to be a part of this. Our city's proud to be a part of this. I'd like to recognize Councillor Karen Cian and Angela Veith, who are here with us this evening, and my fellow team members from the City of Waterloo. We all are working together to create our own sustainable Waterloo. So, on that note, I'd like to say thanks to Mike. Can we say thanks to Mike? And a heads up, if you get an email from somebody